Hey, what's up, builders? It's your girl, Kantoinette the blogger, and you are now listening to the LBF podcast. Welcome back for another Creating Space, and this one is Women in Podcasting. And I have two amazing newcomers to the podcasting game, but they have been killing it. I love their content. So I'm going to introduce the first, which is Kendra, and she runs Coffee with Kendra podcast. She talks about everything from dating to love to like some real hard stuff that we deal with in life. So Kendra, go ahead and say something for the builders.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. And then we have Key. Hopefully you have listened to the astrology episode by now. And this is the very vibrant, very gorgeous voice on the other side of that mic. So Key runs MyCurlsSpeak, and she talks about, first of all, it's very empowering. Every time I listen, I'm just like, yes, girl, I am enough. I am good. So please go listen to that. If you need some affirmations, if you need to be affirmed in any way, if you are struggling with something, her podcast helps you find your voice. So Key, go ahead and say something for the builders.
First of all, you are enough. You was enough, and you'll always be enough. We're going to start there.
Yes,
and I'm a Scorpio, but I don't like other Scorpios, but we ain't going to start with that. All right.
Key, what that had to do with anything?
They got to go back and listen to the astrology episode if they hadn't heard it already. I was plugging you in.
Oh, I got you. You know, I had a lot of comments on that. They was like, what, why was y'all going down on Scorpios like that? I was just like, listen.
I can do that because I'm one.
Exactly.
So it's fair.
Scorpio, so I don't know what you want me to say about it. So let me just start off with asking you, how did you find your voice, or when did you find your voice and know that it was powerful enough for you to influence other people? Either one of you can start.
Well, I'll go ahead and start. For me, it was me just I didn't set out to be a podcaster, so I kind of just got invited to do a couple podcasts on other platforms, and for me, I just thought, I'm just speaking whatever it is that I think, and I don't think that it's that big of a deal. But I started having women reach out to me like, wow, thank you for saying this. I feel this way too, but nobody says this, or nobody speaks from this point of view. And I even got some guys saying, you know what, thank you for being honest about what you said on this podcast. And I think for me, just people reaching out to me made me think, okay, damn, you know what, my voice does mean something to someone, even if it's one person. And I think that's what really got to me and kind of sparked me to want a podcast.
I love that. Yeah. So somebody else saw it in you before you saw it in yourself.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. What about you, Key?
I actually started out as a motivational speaker. I started like about 5 years ago. I started MyCurlsSpeak. I just added the with Key when I started the podcast. Mm-hmm. And MyCurlsSpeak, it was centered around helping domestic violence survivors or survivors of sexual assault. So what ended up happening was I met Be Easy from the DJ Blaze radio show. I had an event for MyCurlsSpeak, MyCurlsSpeak. And when him and DJ Blaze, may he rest in peace, they had me come in to like talk about my event. And then that was my first time actually being on a podcast. So I was like, oh, this was fun. But then I never really thought about it again, other than the fact that, I listened to other podcasts and I was like, well, I don't know if I can do that because I talk to myself. I don't know if I could talk to myself. So what ended up happening was I have like a group on Facebook for moms. And like they kept asking me because I would go live in the group and encourage them. And then finally, like they were like, I feel like you need a podcast.
Right.
And I was like, but y'all want me to talk to myself? And then they were like, if you do it, we'll listen to you. So I tried it and it worked. So,
right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I'll share mine. I don't think I really have to anymore since, everybody listening should know. I started off blogging. I've been a writer all my life. And from there, I had a couple of people encourage me who were actually reading the words I was writing and saying like, you need to you need to be brave enough to start doing this on a mic. And I didn't do it for a while because I was just like, ain't nobody gonna listen to me. You kind of cop yourself out, even though you're awesome. Sometimes you always have that little thing, that hindrance that makes you feel like you can't do something that you know nothing about, right?
Right.
So I put it off for a while, and then after I'm a big person on hearing things multiple times. So once I hear something at least 3 times, I'm just like, okay, let me see what this is about. And so I heard it 3 times, and then shout out to the 1409. I'll say it every time I talk about this, but the two guys, shout out to KT and shout out to Guala Meets World. They were the big pushers for like helping me get started, and just motivating me to actually start this. And once I did it, it felt natural. It felt like it was something I was supposed to be doing. So I'll ask you both that, like, how have you been feeling since you started on the mic? Key. You look like you're trying to hide.
I thought Kendra was gonna go first. Okay, well, at first I kind of thought I was just winging it. Like it was like the feedback was coming. I'm not gonna even lie. I have social anxiety, so I don't like attention like that. I know it's weird. Why would I have a podcast and I don't like attention? But when I first had dropped, like I started getting like all these inboxes and stuff, and it was like extremely overwhelming. So like I didn't talk on the internet for like a week. And like because I didn't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
And one of my friends was like, but why would you make such a relatable podcast and then don't want people to talk to you? And I was like, so sometimes it's overwhelming just because like I'm not used to a lot of attention. I like for people to hear me, but I don't like for them to see me. If that make any sense, I'm actually shy.
Totally makes sense to me. It's because I'm the same way too. I'm just like, when you're on the mic or when you're behind the computer or in the studio, it's like your personal safe space. And for me, I'm just like, I'm literally just talking, and it's having the same conversations, to the audience or with someone else or with myself. And so sometimes you forget like it's other people on the other side. And so when someone specifically hits you up in your DM or hits you up in your inbox and they repeat to you your own words, it's like, oh my God, like people are actually listening, connecting. But I've gotten to the point now where I expect it and where I'm motivated by it to always, come on the mic and be honest and be truthful and try to be helpful, try to be transparent and vulnerable.
Right.
What about you, Kendra?
I think I can definitely relate to you too because I'm actually a shy person too, and I think since we do podcasts and nobody believes that, right? But in all actuality, I'm a shy person. Like when I meet you, I'm a little quiet, a little bit reserved until I spend more time with you. The more time I spend with you, the more I open up and you'll see me. So when it comes to podcasting, same thing, and I had to. I think like my very first podcast, I sounded so nervous. I can hear the nervousness in my voice. I don't know if everyone else could hear, but I did. And then when I finally branched off to do my own podcast, and I was still nervous. Like my first 5 episodes, I was still nervous, not like trusting myself, even though I'm confident in what I'm saying and what I'm feeling because it's my own. It was hard to kind of come out of that shell. So like now I do it, and obviously it's second nature, right? I don't even think about it anymore. And I think what keeps me encouraged is the fact of just like you said, Kantoinette, when people reach out to me and say what I said on the podcast, then it's like, damn, people listening to me. Because I think I was just doing my podcasting and then put it out there, and I'm like, ain't nobody listening to this. But when people hit me up and say, look, this, I've been through this too, and this happened to me, then I'm like, okay, well, people are listening. Let me continue doing what it is that I'm doing.
Right. I love it too. It's like it can get overwhelming because people will get real personal. I mean, and that's been my whole life. For some reason, people will come to me with personal stuff, even though I didn't solicit for it, and I don't mind it because I'm just like, hey, I'm here to be of service to others. That's how I always think. So the podcast is just another way I do that, and also to help myself as well because I work through a lot of my own stuff while I'm podcasting, but to have that connection with other people where you're creating that safe space for them to come with something very personal, and to know that your words impacted them in some way, either to let them know they're not alone or to feel empowered. I think it's such a great feeling, like when you know you just
It's
did something
powerful.
good. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, in 3 words, describe yourself and describe your podcast. And I didn't even think of no answer to this question.
I'll try to go first.
Okay.
I'm gonna say unfiltered.
Mm.
I'm gonna say authentic and fun.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got that when I was listening to you. That
Mm-hmm.
does
Thank you.
describe you. You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
That was, I would say, transparent, empowering, and honest.
Mm.
Cause
I
I be
love
telling
that.
my own business. Yeah.
Girl, don't that kill you? Get on the mic and
I
just spill
listen.
all the beans.
I listened to my podcast from the day because I listened to it like after everybody else, and one of my friends had texted me and was like, "You heard that part where you said such and such?" I was like, "Nah." So I went back and listened to it. I was like, "No wonder nobody talking to me today."
You know, I have this thing where I can listen back to my own podcast and it doesn't feel like I'm listening back to myself. It feels like
Mm-hmm.
I'm just listening back, and I'm learning it as I'm listening to. It's like I'm talking to myself from like an outer body experience. But you do have those moments where you be like, oh my God, I am
Right.
overhearing a little bit. So I would definitely say I'm very vulnerable on the mic. Um very honest, and hmm I don't know if I don't think I filter myself so much, but I'm very, I don't know. I can't think of that third word. We're gonna circle back to that. We're gonna circle back around. All right. So, what were your thought processes before you started? Like, did you think it was gonna be hard? How did you feel like the whole process of podcasting was gonna go?
For me, I was terrified because I'm like, first of all, I didn't know if people really was gonna listen to my show.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was shocked that people was listening to it for real. Like I think the first time, no, it wasn't even the first week because the first week I was like, oh, they was being nosy, so that's okay. But then it was like the third week when I had people like tagging me and stuff that I said, and I was just like, and then it was men doing it too. I think I was really really shocked of the
Mm-hmm.
male support that I had. But the scariest thing for me was I don't know how I'm gonna talk to myself, and I was like, I don't know why would somebody listen to me talk to myself. That was the scariest thing for me, but it's been
Okay.
working. It's been working.
What about you, Kendra?
I think two things. I s- like I'm always saying this because I think people don't even believe me, but I didn't set out to be a podcaster, right?
Right.
So for me, podcasting it had became like a hobby. And so for me, the scariest thing was, okay, how do I work towards my passion and my hobby that could potentially be lucrative at some point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and just being able to like juggle between the two. And also that, and then I think I had this fear, and that's why I said I told myself when I started it, I would be me, period, and I wouldn't filter it at all because with your passion in life, it could be your job, for example, or your career, and you can't necessarily be unfiltered in that sense when you're trying
Oh
to
yeah.
pick up clients and customers, right? So this is my place where I can just be Kendra. So even though I said that, I still battled what I was like, people not gonna like if I say this.
Mm-hmm.
But then I just kept telling myself, you know what? Who cares? This is your hobby too.
Right.
Just say it. And I don't have like real life friends. Like I don't have girlfriends I hang with and talk to and say, oh girl, this happened, blah, blah, blah. So I have so much to talk about that I never knew. And so I'm like, you know what, just do you. And I just go with that. Anytime I'm thinking about something I think people may not like, I just remind myself that, you know what, this is yours. You do you. And then you walk away. For the people who don't like it, they won't listen. And the people who like it, they'll continue to listen.
Right.
Right.
I totally agree. For me, my first thoughts were, I don't exactly know how to do all this. So when I started, I literally started with I brought a Yeti mic and some attachments, and I was recording off my phone. Um, and I started with a small platform, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna just get on the mic and start talking. And I did it. And it was actually crazy because once I started getting like a little notice by other people, and started getting invited to other podcasts, that's when I became nervous. I was comfortable talking, on my own, but I was just like, even though I was podcasting, I was just like, I'm not no podcaster. Why these people want me to talk, on their podcast? I don't know nothing about this. But it's been a great experience, and it lets me know, like, it's taught me a lot about who I am, as far as how I relate to other people and what I really truly think about other topics, because it's one thing for you to get on the mic and you to talk about certain stuff and you to be solo dolo, but then when you do have those experiences, when you're going out and you're having these conversations on the mic with other people, that's a whole different experience as well, and it teaches you something else. So I don't know, and it's so much I'm still learning. It's so much. I've been doing it for, I just hit a year, probably like a month or two ago. One of them times. No, I was back in November. Damn, it's March already.
Happy anniversary.
It's April. Wait,
Right.
April, March. Yes. Anyway, but yeah. So I'm still learning a lot, and I just feel like I'm gonna just continue going until I can't anymore. So one thing that made me want to do this episode is when I first started, I didn't see a lot of women doing it on their own. And then I saw like the evolution of both of you, and I was just like, this is great. Like, it's great because we're all doing something. Like, we're all solo women on our mics, right? It's our show. It's nobody else.
Right.
No co-host, no nothing else. It's
Mhm.
ours. It's our creativity, our thoughts, and then we invite people into that space. But with that being said, that's a uniqueness, and we're doing it all in a different way. And so that's why I wanted to have this conversation, to show that there's always room. So I
Hmm.
wanted to get your thoughts on, like, what do you think about women in podcasting, and how do you see that, growing from your own experience?
I've actually had. Am I muted?
No, you're
Okay.
good.
I have kids. I be muting the mic a little bit because you never know when somebody
Oh,
going,
girl, that's
you
fine.
know. But I actually had several women inbox me and tell me that now they want a podcast and
Mm-hmm.
ask me like what was the process and how did I start. And I've had people tell me that if I didn't start, they probably never would have said they wanted a podcast. So it's like one of those things where you be like, your heart just smiled. Like I had one girl, she reached out to me and she was like, I hope it doesn't offend you that sometimes on my podcast, I I quote you. I said,
Right.
let me tell you something. It's going to be people that won't listen to me because everybody, it's not always the message. Sometimes people won't receive it because it's the messenger. So it's people that I can't touch
Mm-hmm.
and they'll listen to you. And it doesn't matter if you say the exact same thing that I said. And it
Right.
doesn't matter if I say the same thing that you say because whoever needs to hear it will hear it. And like she was like, "Oh my God, I'm so happy you said that because I thought you'd be mad at me." And I'm like, I couldn't be mad at you for empowering
Right.
other women. Like
If
I
that's the
thought that
real
was a beautiful
goal.
thing. That's
Yes.
the real goal. It's not
Yeah.
about me. Like so, it just made my day that she even thought enough about me to quote me on her show.
Right.
Like and thought enough about me to actually say like, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have a show. Because I'm a baby. Like I'm an infant podcaster. I think my podcast like 2 months old. So like to have somebody say something like that to me when I feel like I'm still winging it, it
Mm-hmm.
meant a lot.
That's
It meant a lot
awesome.
to me.
What about you, Kendra?
That's amazing to hear, by the way. I love what you said about, because that's the honest truth, right? There's people that won't listen to you because for whatever reason, they may not even like you. They may
Right.
not like the way you
Child.
look, but you still got my message through somebody else. So that's a powerful thing in itself, right? I think for me, I'm excited to see the evolution of women podcasters, and not just women podcasters, but standalone women
Yes,
podcasters.
specifically.
Mhm.
Because yeah, I'm excited to see that. I've had, and I'm a baby podcaster too, so we're talking about 3 months in. But I've had women launch their podcast shortly after me, and I've had women slide in my DM and say, you know what, you got me so motivated. You keep me motivated with your promos and the things that I hear on your podcast, I can't wait to get mine started. I've had a women reach out and say, hey, can I give you a call? I really want to pick your brain about, podcasting. I want to learn some things. And I've been able to share the little bit of knowledge that I have onto other women already. And it's just started. So I think, I mean, that's a gift within itself.
Definitely. Because I mean, it could very easily, and I think in a lot of spaces, it's always this mentality that, I don't want to help the next one come up because I might be losing something, right? But like you said, to have the experience where I'm just like, I'm telling people what mics I'm using. I'm telling you what attachments you might need. If you need me to show you, I don't know a lot, but the things I do know, I'm trying to help as much as possible because I want you to have a good experience with this. Because I think a lot of times, and I can't say it's specific to women, but people will start, this platform and then they'll fizzle out and they don't want to do it anymore because it's like the passion isn't there for them to continue doing it because they don't have the help. And it's just like, if we do it together, if we kind of learn together, then we can kind of sustain this thing and we can make room for each other. There's always room. So I just want to not only, on the podcast promote that togetherness and that empowerment, but also like be living that too, like in the reality and behind the scenes. So how do you get in your zone? Key, I kind of know a little bit of how you get in yours. But Kendra, how do you get in your zone?
Oh my God. So when I love having guests on my show, but I love podcasting by myself even more because this is how I do it, right? I'll be having a conversation with my sister, or I'll have a conversation with an associate. I mean, I'll say homie because I don't use the word friend loosely. So I'll have a conversation with a homie or something, or I'll have a conversation or I'll be on Instagram scrolling and I'll see a meme and I'll read everybody's comments and then I'll be like, that's it. Turn on my mic. This is how I feel about this. And I let it out then and there and I walk away. That's exactly how I do it.
I love that because I started off doing like solo episodes, right? And then I slowly, got to doing episodes with other guests. And like I said, it is a different experience with I'm out of state right now. So I had to do a solo episode just so I can have my episode out on time. And I got back on the mic and I was like, after I finished recording, I was like, I don't think this is going to be great. I'll listen back to it. I was just like, you know what? You know what you're doing a little bit. And it's a different vibe when you're with yourself because you can talk about whatever you want to talk about. It's like you're following your own thoughts and you're getting into a space where you really just having a conversation. And I always imagine somebody else is on the other side of it, but they just not responding to interrupt or nothing like that. Like, so I can get every point I want to get out and, express myself fully without having to tailor it to anybody else. And I love that. I love those solo episodes where it's just like you listening to somebody. A lot of times they might be decompressing their own ideas or coming to their own resolutions too on the mic. Because Key, you do that a lot.
That's exactly how mine is. It's just I'm just getting some thoughts out. That's it.
And those are the best ones. What about you, Key? What's your process?
Okay. I didn't realize how long my process was until somebody shadowed me last week. Like I had somebody come to the studio with me. And afterwards, she was like, "Oh, it took you 45 minutes to do a 10-minute episode." This is the reason. This is the reason why. I'm gonna explain to you the process. So I don't prepare an episode like at all. Now I don't tell other people to do that because it might not work. But for me, I don't prepare anything at all. Usually whatever I'm going to talk about, it comes to me like either on the way to record or like on the when I'm in the shower about to go record. So I don't prepare at all. So what happens is I go to the studio, I pick out a song because I don't know if anybody ever noticed that my intros are never the same song. So I pick out a song. When I pick out a song, it takes me about 10 minutes to just pick out a song. And then after I pick out the song based off of how I feel, I write the affirmation to the music. So because I do that, it does take a little bit. And the more I've been doing episodes, like today was episode 9. So episode 1 through 4, the affirmations were very short in the beginning. But now my affirmations are like 2 minutes long.
Look, I was like, she getting these affirmations together, honey. I hadn't listened to the one today, but I did notice last week. I was like, nah, from the first one to that one, I was like, I could tell you were finding that groove, and you were finding what timestamps fit your style.
So once I do the affirmation, I never noticed that my affirmation went with the show. I just do an affirmation until one day Be Easy was like, you know, your affirmations always match. And I was like, he was like, even on Siri, am I a hoe? You said you have choices, use them. Like, it always makes sense. Because I don't know if you remember, even that day, everyone was talking and I was trying to write my affirmation like right then.
I don't know if you
remember that.
Yeah.
So like, people beg me for longer shows, and I'm like, this 15 minutes took me an hour, but okay.
Like, listen, y'all trying to have me in the studio all night. But I mean, and even I remember having like when you were first, getting started and everything, having the conversation with you, and I was trying to project because everybody wants to know everybody's process, right? My process is different, and I love that you stay true to yours because what you're doing is going off that emotion, that feeling, and that's what comes through in your episodes.
Oh, I skipped something. I did. I skipped the most important part.
Which one?
I didn't do it while y'all was in the studio with me that day because I thought y'all was gonna look at me funny. Okay, I like candles, and I turned the lights off.
Okay, you didn't turn the lights off, but you lit a candle when I was there.
Yeah, I always record. I record in the dark. But I didn't do that with y'all in here because I thought
talk about setting a vibe though.
Okay, listen. Let me turn some lights off right now.
A whole vibe.
My process is production. It's not that kind of production, but it's a production because like you said, I go based off emotion. So, but it's also like what I feel is hitting in a space for multiple people. So it'll come up in a conversation and it's like a light bulb will go off. And I'm like, okay, where can I follow this? And from there, I have to write it down. So y'all have seen my my outlines.
Girl, yes. But I appreciate it though. Listen, I'm not mad.
People talk about my outlines all the time, but I'm just like, this is how I organize my thoughts. Because if not, then I can definitely get on the mic and forget something important that I wanted to say or something important that I wanted to ask. And I don't want to do that. But it's also to help me conceptualize the topic, right? Making sure that whatever I'm talking about is relevant to how I feel, how the other person may feel, how the audience, may feel, and what's going on during that time. So once I finish, writing that, I usually set everything up. Whether now lately, a lot I've been recording on my own instead of going to the studio because it's just like, with schedules being how they are, it's just easier for me to do it that way. And I get my coffee because lately I've been tired. I get my coffee and I just go with it and let it take me wherever it's going to take me. And sometimes that means I might be on the mic for an hour. Sometimes it might be longer depending on the topic. It also depends on who I'm talking to as well. So a lot of times I tell people that even though I've made this lengthy outline, that we decide the conversation.
Right.
Once we start talking, I'm going based off of like the vibe, the energy, and where I feel like more questions or less questions need to be asked and what needs to be talked about the most, So that's my process. What's something you hear people say often about podcasts in general?
That is their passion.
That is their passion. Go ahead.
I've heard, well, do you mean like as in just the listeners or podcasters themselves?
You can do both.
As listeners, I've heard so many people tell me that they couldn't find a podcast that kept their attention. Mm-hmm. And then like I send them a list of podcasts and they're like, oh, you want to something? I'm like, yeah, because like I listen to podcasts before I watch TV. And for a long time, a lot of people didn't understand how I could do that. Like they didn't want to listen to somebody talk, but I'm like, you listen to somebody talk when you watch a TV show, technically it's the same thing. But they say like a lot of voices are monotone. Nobody I listen to has a monotone voice. So like we just changed the narrative. All of us just changed the narrative. None of us sound like that.
Right.
So I done turned some people on the podcast, not just mine. Like I could give you a list of other people to listen to, so it's not just me, you know.
Right. We just traded some the other day, me and you. We were like,
Right.
you listen to this person, you listen to this person.
Right.
Yeah. What about you, Kendra?
I think for me, since I wasn't before I was a podcaster, I wasn't a podcast listener either. So already had resonated with people who don't listen to podcasts, you know, because my thing was for me, I just thought in my head, podcasting is boring. I'm not about to listen to nobody talk, right? But I didn't know that podcasts could be anything. I didn't know you could do a podcast for 10 minutes. I thought all podcasts was 1 hour, you know?
Right.
So going into it, I had those thoughts myself, you know? And I think when I interact with other podcasters, I think what I hear most is podcasting is their passion. That's why I said that first, like podcasting is their passion. And I think nobody really understands me when I say it's not my passion. It's something that I enjoy doing, and I think I'm kind of good at it. But that doesn't mean it's my passion. And I think other podcasters really don't resonate with me when they hear that.
I get it, because I don't necessarily think podcasting is my passion. I think podcasting is my vehicle. Right.
Okay.
So I started it because I wanted to get my message out, because I knew I had like good content, but I didn't know how to, based on the audience and the type of, you know, how people consume information, I didn't know how to really get it out there. And then when someone presented me with the platform of podcasting, I was just like, it's worth a try. And I love it. I'm not saying I don't, but at the end of the day, what I love most is being able to get my message out. That's my passion. You know, my words, my thoughts, my, you know, emotions, that's my passion. Empowering other people and giving them a safe space is my passion. So podcasting is just something, especially when you talk about all the technical stuff that go into it. That's just something I do.
Okay.
Because it can get, it's just not. Especially, I mean, it can be fun, but it can also be overwhelming, because you're just like, okay, now that I got to edit. Okay, now I finished editing the episode. Now I got to, you know, create the promo. Now I finished creating the promo. Now I got to post it. Make sure I post it on time. All right, now I got to make sure I respond to the people that said, it's a lot. Social media is a whole nother ball game when it comes to that. And it's just like, it can go from fun to hectic and chaotic real quick, you know? And yeah, I'm gonna leave that. Then we're gonna get back to that. But yeah, I was a listener of podcasts before I started. Like Yuki, I will put on a podcast before I put on TV. Sometimes I probably won't put on TV for a couple of days in my house, just listening and catching up on podcasts. Because I do have times when I don't listen to them, just because, like I said, I don't want to absorb too much and feel like I'm being inadvertently influenced in the topics I choose. Right. But also, like, it's just something about a podcast that helps me get up in the morning too. You know, so I definitely get what you say when you said that, you know, you turn other people who would not be onto podcasts. And also, like, the male response, like you said earlier, I have more male listeners than I do women listeners, which shocked the heck out of me, because I was just like, wow, right. All Black women over here. Like, but I had somebody explain it to me, and I get it, but it's great to know that as a podcaster and somebody who's using it as a vehicle, that it is doing what it's supposed to be doing. What events do you think influenced your interest in starting a podcast? Like, I know y'all said, like, you know, things leading up to that, but like, do you feel like any events in your life personally influence you to want to talk and want to speak and want to empower and different things like that?
I went to the Joe Budden podcast live, like 2000, because we had, you know, we in a Panda Express right now, but like, so it wasn't last year. It wasn't last year. It was 2019. I went to one of his live podcast recordings, and here's the thing. Anybody that's new to me, they may not understand that Joe Budden is my favorite person, like ever, besides like my kids.
I think you got a lot of favorite people. I don't know. I follow you on social media.
I'm not. See, though, the thing with Joe Budden, I'm not attracted to Joe Budden.
Okay.
I love his creativity. I love him as a creator. So it's
Okay.
like he's my favorite person ever. But anyway, back to what I was saying. I was getting off topic. I'm on topic, but I'm off topic because I'm
You
getting all in. I get that passion when I talk about it. Okay, so they passed me the mic because my boyfriend at the time, he raised his hand because they asked if anybody have a question. He raised it for me because he knew that was my favorite person. They gave me the mic and I froze up and I couldn't say anything. So I gave the mic back. The person behind me asked a question. It was like, I want to start a podcast and I don't know what to do.
Mm.
And the thing was, I had actually reached out to 2 or 3 people on Instagram like the week before and asked the same question. They gave me the same information I had Googled. It didn't really help me at all because I'm a researcher. So
Yes.
like, it wasn't that, some people ask the questions because they don't want to do the work. It wasn't that I didn't want to do the work. I did do the work, but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how to apply it, if that made
Right.
any sense.
You need the
So
details. The
I
small
needed
details.
details.
Yes.
Mhm. So the person asked the question. It was a guy standing right behind me, and Joe Budden got the mic, and he was like, "This is the year of creators," and he went into this whole spiel. And as he was talking, like before I knew it, I was crying because I was like, "This was what I needed to hear."
Mm.
Like right here, like he basically he didn't go into like the details, but like he affirmed how I already was feeling because he was like, "It's somebody in here who message needs to be heard."
Mm.
And this is the year that you're going to find out how to give your message. And I didn't like find it out in 2019. That's the thing. Like, but I did find it out within a year of me actually going to the to the recording,
Mm-hmm.
because that next year I hit up Be Easy and I was like, I got an idea. And he was like, what's up? I was like, MyCurlsSpeak. Why is that not a podcast? Don't that sound like I'm supposed to be talking? And he was like, call me tonight. And that's how it started. So that moment, I needed to be there. Now, it does suck that I did lose my opportunity to talk to my favorite guy. But I feel like one day in life, I'm going to get that opportunity again.
There'll be more.
Right. It
There
will.
will be
Right.
more. Yes.
Yeah. Full circle. That's going to be a full circle moment when you get the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity again.
And you get to tell him what
Mm-hmm.
you just told us.
Because this sound like a little soundbite, girl. You listen. Put some energy up on this mic here. We're going to
Right.
manifest some stuff.
Okay.
All right, Kendra. You got to follow that up.
Yeah, I know. I can't follow that up. I'm gonna let you know that right now. I cannot follow up with that one. For me, it was like I said, I started that page as an outlet. It wasn't even started as a podcast page. It was started as like a personal / vlog page, on Instagram. And I think it wasn't, I can't say it was one specific moment that I was like, yeah, I need to do this podcast thing. But other podcasters were telling me after coming on their show, you need to just do your own podcast. You need to do your own podcast. And I don't just do anything without researching it or seeing, learning some things on my own. And so, like, I'm doing my research. I'm listening to other podcasts. I'm listening to other women. I'm listening to men. I'm watching podcasts and getting, my creative juices flowing. And what I seen was I don't hear anybody that is speaking, and I don't even want to say like my point of view, but I'm hearing a lot of the same opinions. And
Yeah.
I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying it's a bad thing, but my opinion is usually the unpopular opinion. So I wasn't hearing a lot of that. So I was like, you know what? Go ahead and put your unpopular opinion out there. Just go ahead and do it. So I can't say it was one particular thing, but all of those things in one kind of, convinced me to just go ahead and get the ball rolling with that.
Right. So you gave yourself permission. I love that.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I mean, so it's like, you know what? Ain't nobody doing this. Let me go ahead and just slide on in here and go ahead and help them
Yeah.
out. um, So like I said, it started off as a blog. And I got away from it, being in a relationship, and I was going back to school, working, and work was getting crazy. It was just like a lot of crazy, just a whole bunch of high energy stuff and stuff that needed my attention and everything else. So I got away from being creative. And so once my relationship ended, I started back getting in my bag as far as like writing. And then like something quiet as they told me, it was just like, you should think about starting a podcast. And then once I started hearing it from other people, that's when I kind of knew that it was coming from a different place, like a higher place, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided to take that leap. And once I first got on the mic, like I said, it just felt like it was something I was supposed to be doing. But I always think that if I had not gone through a lot of the things that I went through leading up to that, I wouldn't have had anything to talk about, because a lot of the first episodes I did, and some of the episodes I still do, are based on my blog posts. And
Mm-hmm.
those blog posts are talking about, like, some hard stuff, like, and some difficult stuff that I had to process and go through. So I'll always appreciate, those hard moments in my own life, because I'm able to bring them to life and to shed some light on them, on my own show. So, does your close family listen to your podcast?
Yes. My mama listens. Like last week, I think it was like, I didn't release a show last week. I did a live
Mm.
because I had COVID. So I couldn't go to the studio to record. So I did a live. And like my mom was like on the phone with her friend. She was like, wait, something is wrong. Something is off. And I could hear her talking on the phone. And then she came in the room and she was like, it's Thursday. Something is off. She was like, I didn't listen to your show yesterday.
Oh my
And I was just
God.
like, it, like, not only does my mom listen to it, her best friend listens to it, and her best friend is like 10 years older than her. So I got people that's listening to my show like that's like much older than me. Like,
Mhm.
my mama showed me a text message where her best friend told her boyfriend, like, baby, I'm single. Well, not her boyfriend, because she said she's single. But like like it was just like, it's, I think everybody, my aunt listens to my show. I think the only person that doesn't listen to my show is my grandma, and that's because she doesn't know how.
It's always a technology gap somewhere up in there. It's
Right.
okay. We gonna work with that a little bit.
And I kind of told my people not to show her how, because like some of
I
the
don't
stuff
want.
I be
Yeah,
talking about, I don't want my
grandma don't need to know that. Grandma,
like,
I can give you the
let's keep,
snippets right here, the synopsis.
yeah. She could see the promos. They got the
That's
affirmations on
it.
it.
What about
um,
you?
I would have to say probably not. Not that I am aware of. I think my mom listened to like my first two episodes. Um, but I don't, not that I know of anybody is listening to them. No.
How would
And
you
I,
feel
I
if they
kind of
came
like
out?
it that way.
How would you feel if your mom came up to you, or somebody higher, up in the ranks in your family
Oh
came up to
yeah,
you and
yeah.
said
So
you
this
was
here's the thing with my family, that the what y'all hear on Coffee with Kendra, that's Kendra. So my family will listen to that and not be a shock of anything
got
at
you.
all. They're never gonna be like, oh my God, Kendra, I didn't know this. They already know. So
Right.
I don't think it would be any shock factor to that. If anything, they might learn something about my personal business if they didn't know before.
Right, because we be telling it all, y'all. Y'all,
Right.
we gotta say something. Um, I my si- well, um, my best friend listens. My sister, when she can, she listens. As far as like my mom and my oldest sister, I don't know. I suspect my older sister does. She don't say nothing. She one of the one. She'll listen, but she wouldn't say anything to me about it. Because I do have some topics that is just like, I'm the youngest in my family. I'm the baby and everything, and I'm known as the quiet one as well. And I don't share as much. So for me to have a platform like this, I'm pretty sure some other people in my family that have been listening. I have some distant cousins that I know who listen. Um, and I'm pretty sure they got their own opinions about, some of the topics and some of the stuff I say. But I tell everyone, it's like, I'm being vulnerable. I'm choosing and intentionally choosing to share stuff with you. So it's nothing that I say that anybody can shame me for or make me feel bad
Right.
about, because I own it, so
Mm.
if my family ever did come to me, or my mom ever did come to me and she, asked me about something that I put out, we'll have the conversation. So, what is the hardest or most uncomfortable episode that you have done thus far?
For me, Siri and my hoe.
What was that? I could tell you were a little uncomfortable on that one, actually.
The feedback I got off of that show, because yeah, uh, it was people. I had people asking me where they were on the roster. Did they make it? And then I had to say they weren't on the roster at all. It was like one of those things where I got I had to have very hard conversations the day that that came out.
Well, that might be a good thing. No.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't make tryouts, but it was like one of those things I didn't think I ever was gonna have to say until they heard the show. And yeah, the show today though, you know what? It might top that. You have to listen to today's show because I
Oh, I
said
am.
I was in my bag. I had hurt some feelings.
Yeah, I had already
Um,
decided. I was like, I know it comes out on Wednesday, so I always know, and I'm subscribed to both of y'all. So I'm like, okay, on my commute, this is what I'm gonna put on. I'm gonna switch it up when I have to commute back. So, yeah, Kendra, what about you?
I don't think I have had um a tough episode just yet. I think yeah, I do a lot of promo, and like I hop on like all of my followers' lives. Like I'll try to like support everyone.
Yeah.
And I think yesterday I was on a live that was just a little bit tough because I felt like everyone was had the opposite opinion of mine. And
Mm.
so I don't want to say attacked because I was not being attacked, and I love these people and they love me. But everybody was like kind of against what I was saying, and I kind of felt just a little bit back into the corner, but I stood firm with my opinion and what it is that I feel, and I let them know no one can change that.
Right.
But that was just a live, and I think, but I think that's been the toughest thing that I've been a part of when it comes to podcasting. I think, and then anytime that I'm hit with a topic that I am uncomfortable with talking about, like I think sometimes when I do podcasts with guys, I definitely have to tell them up front that I'm not going to discuss my sex life. So I've been hit off guard with some of
Girl,
those
you hit me with
questions.
that. I was like, I do not, I don't mind that because you have to
Yeah.
be true to what you want to talk about.
Yeah, and see, I can talk about sex open and vaguely, like in conversations, but when you
Right.
ask me my personal sex life and things that I enjoy, like that's not going to be a conversation that I want to have. And I think I've been hit with those accidentally. That's why I learned ahead of time. Now, when I do podcasts, I have to let them know, look, we don't discuss this. I think that's kind of put me on the spot, and then you kind of don't want to be like the party pooper, so you kind of gotta kind of wink it to a degree. And I
Right.
think I've had to do that a couple times, as a new podcaster.
I mean, and you definitely have to, it's like we still have our boundaries. And that's something I'm learning too. It's just like, I haven't ran into much of mine yet because my whole thing is like, okay, I'm here and I don't mind sharing. I don't mind being vulnerable because I'm going to always choose how much I'm going to share with you.
right.
So whether the topic be sex or anything else, I'm going to choose how much of that you get access to. With that being said, I think that, as podcasters and working with other podcasters, we have to be considerate of other people's boundaries as
Mm-hmm.
well as our own too, because not everybody is going to want to talk about or find it interesting what you want to talk about, or not everybody's going to feel comfortable with some of these topics because a lot of the stuff I talk about can be touchy. And if I have a particular hard episode, I always make sure I check in like multiple times. So
I do the same with
yes,
others.
I have to. And it's like, because I know if it's hard for me, it's going to be
Mm-hmm.
hard for the person that I'm going to be, having that conversation with. So one of my hardest ones would be the mommy and the daddy issues series. So it started off as me like processing my own stuff. And then when I had conversations with other people, I realized that this was something that, I needed different perspectives on to have like a well-rounded conversation. Um, my mommy issues episode was a lot harder than my daddy issues episode just because the nature of how we treat mom, right? And I had to fight myself the whole time to like keep myself open and keep myself honest to my experiences and to, the truth of, what I perceive to be mommy issues in my own life. And I had to also make sure that I was considering those boundaries of my guest as well and not trying to trigger any trauma that they might have had in their own experiences, because some of this stuff can be traumatic stuff that I talk about at least. um so I would say that was my hardest and a little bit uncomfortable
Yeah.
episode, but I'm glad I had it. The first sex episode I did was also a little bit uncomfortable, and I chose to have it because I was uncomfortable talking about sex, and I wanted to make the subject not as taboo as, you know, we as a society try to make it sometimes. So yeah. What was the easiest one, or what was the one that you had the most fun on?
Mm.
It's the audacity for me was the easiest one.
Because it's
That was
just
the
the
easiest
whole
one.
phrase is just fun. So when I
I
saw it
was
pop up,
so
I know I'm
pissed
about
when I recorded that. Like I was so pissed off when I had recorded that. Like everything I had said was like up to date. Like the audacity was buy one get one free, and it's on sale today. They got their stimmies, and I can tell.
oh,
I can tell because it's still on sale.
it's still on
Mm-hmm.
sale.
That was
You would think they'd
mm-hmm.
jack up the price. People got a little bit of money in their pocket. Nah, it's still on
Mm-mm.
sale.
They still on sale.
But
It's
that's the one
two
you
for
put on when
one.
somebody done got on your nerves. And you just like, you know what, let me, it's when they in the car with you too. And you just like, you know, let me go ahead and put this on. Cause you
Mm-hmm.
you think you got the one today.
Okay.
What about you, Kendra?
um hmm.
Relax, heal, and embrace a better you. Spa Danny offers quality yet affordable massages customized just for you. Let Danny create a space for you to hit the pause button. Who doesn't need that at the start of 2021? Why not start today? You can call or text at 843-687-2079. That's 843-687-2079. You can also message her on her business page at spadanny_ on Instagram, or follow her on Facebook at Spadanny LLC. You can also book online at spadannyexperience.com. That's spadannyexperience.com. Treat yourself, be good to yourself, and let 2021 be a whole vibe.
I think one of the funnest episodes I've done was, I forgot what it was called, but it was one of my episodes where I was just talking about how, where we place money as a society, like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
how much we need to talk about getting this bag,
Mm-hmm.
and not actually having like self-fulfillment and self-happiness within. And that was a fun conversation because like I said, I talked about some real shit, but it was funny because of the way how I talked about it, you know, and I
Right.
mentioned that guy, you know, where the money reside, where the money, remember it? So I talked about him too. So it was funny, but it was real.
It's a real message, and you packaged it in a fun way. I mean, because really, like you said, and I listened to, I didn't finish the whole one, but I did listen to some of it, and you were just calling out the fact that the value we place on it, and the fact that, you know, people feel more valuable if they have it, and people are made to feel less valuable if they don't. It's like, no, your value is your value, and you should know that you are
Yes.
worthy with or without these things. They're just attachments. So I love a lot of y'all messages. I don't know if that's coming across.
Thank
But
you.
for me being, you know, someone who, how can I say this? Me being someone who in my own life is the one that empowers a lot, the one that encourages a lot. I have to listen to podcasts to get my fix, you know, because sometimes you
Right.
can't. I do have great friends. Don't let me clarify. Don't nobody hit me up like, girl, I'll be feeding into you. Yes, I have amazing friends, but sometimes when my battery is low and I just need like that encouragement, that affirmation, or
Mm-hmm.
that good conversation that I feel like I can relate to, I have to turn on a podcast that I feel like is gonna put me in that mood, that vibe. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that doesn't come from, you know, a lot of the bigger podcasts. So that's why I love like the fact that we're up and coming and we're speaking these.
Mm-hmm.
I know that they can go so far.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yes.
what's a common misconception other people make about your podcasting venture?
I'm gonna go first with that one.
You leaned all the way back. Why?
I feel like a lot of people misinterpret my content. And what I mean by that is I just got out of a really really bad breakup,
Mm,
and I feel like they feel like a lot of the stuff that I say are throw offs. which is, I mean, if the shoe fit, but it's not. It's not.
Right.
He's not the only man I ever had.
Exactly.
So everything I say is not in reference to that. But because it's so fresh, I feel like people do relate it to him. But the good thing about it, I'm in everybody's group chat. Like, so when they feel that way, like Letter to My Ex, to be honest, it was the most listened to podcast I had recorded for weeks. Like just recently, and I think it's because Be Easy on he told me like last week, like I'll be talking, I'll be like, go listen to number 5, Siri and My Hoe. He said now that one is the leading one, but for a long time, Letter to My Ex was, and when you listen to the letter, it wasn't mean at all. But I think the title of it, everyone was expecting one thing. And it was like everybody was sharing it and they was posting it in their group chats and they was doing this, that, and the third. And then I don't know if they was disappointed, but if I was them, I would have kind of been disappointed because my message wasn't mad at all.
Right.
Like it was totally different. So with me, even with my last episode I just recorded, I feel like they think I'm throwing off, but that's what happens. I'm a poet too. So I remember this one thing that my daughter's father told me one time, because he's a poet. And he was like, maybe you should treat me better if you don't want what I write to be the way that it is. And as a creator, you take a chance dealing with creators anyway, because, you know, you hear those rap songs. You hear those rap songs where the girl is on the voicemail crying. But she never thought, you know, like that was going to happen. But you took that chance dealing with a creator that would happen to you.
Right.
So like I'm transparent in my journey and I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes. I'm trying to help people not go where I've been. It's not to throw off. So that's the misconception, is that I want somebody to feel bad, when in reality, I want everybody to feel better.
And I want to tell my truth.
Opposite. Right. And I deserve to be able to do that freely. Right. So
I definitely understand that. I feel like the same thing kind of happened with me, but then when people understood, like you said, like listen, this ain't the only person I've ever dated. Like that's number one.
Right.
Number two, a lot of this stuff, if you actually listen to the words and you listen to the episode, it's about me connecting with myself, not me, you know, being bitter. And what I realized, you know, in my own evolution was I went from trying to watch my words so much to just being honest. So it's like, if, like you said, if it hit you, it hit you. I wasn't throwing it directly at you, but if it fit, you know, it is what it is. But I'm going to speak whatever truth I feel is going to be for the best healing on my own and for my audience. What about you, Kendra?
Yeah, I think it is the fact that people think that they know me because they listen to my podcast. And it's not at all saying that I'm inventing a character on my podcast, because that's who I am. But you know me to a degree. You don't know me because you listen to Coffee with Kendra. You know stories of that I've shared with you, but you don't know me. Right. I think, and I think that I always say men and women, they like to sometimes take one line from one of my podcasts and paint this out to who I am. Like, for example, I've done several podcasts where I kind of speak to a degree that I don't want to say like I expect a man to pay for everything, but in my dating life, those are the type of men who I deal with. I was brought up by my mom and father that, you know what, this is what men do. So that's the type of men that I date. And I don't want to use the word expect, but because I know the men are not like that.
That's your standard.
Yeah, exactly. And so they take lines like that and then go and say, oh, Kendra just wants a man with money. And it's like, that's not what I'm saying at all. And you're trying to paint me out to be this gold digger, so to speak, when in my opinion, that's the type of man that I want. And why is it not okay to want that kind of man?
Right.
Just because you disagree with it doesn't mean it's wrong. Right. So I think when it comes to my podcast, and that's what the misconception is that they'll take this one line and say, oh, this is who Kendra is. And it's like, no, there's too many layers to me. You're never going to figure out who I am if you listen to every podcast.
Right.
And so, yeah, I would have to say that's definitely the word. Yes.
Oh, girl, you. Whew. So another one for me is, like I said, I call out certain things that I feel like make people uncomfortable because I feel like that's where the growth is, right? Sex was one of those things. For a while, like I've never been one to be like outwardly open about it, but I mean, I'm a sensual person. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm sexual, but once I started talking about it, I saw the difference in like how people were starting to interact with me. And so based off of like a few episodes or a few things I say, now you're sexualizing me. And you ain't even really listen to what I said, or I share a clip and you just assume that you know what the rest of the episode is about. And it's like, no, did you actually go and listen to me? Like, did you actually take the time to have the conversation with me? Because that's what I promote. But a lot of people, they'll get in their mind that I'm one way. And once they actually do take the time to listen, they'll realize like, okay, wait, she was talking about something totally different. Like, or if she was talking about, she did it in a way that I wasn't expecting. And it's just like when you run the risk of just being wrong whenever you just take stuff at first glance. And that's what a lot of people do, especially with women in podcasting. I think it's so much more normal for men to have podcasts. Or it's more acceptable in a lot of ways. But for some reason, when a woman chooses to have like this kind of a platform, it's like, oh, she must be trying to get over a hurt, or she must be trying to do this or trying to do that. And it's like, I'm just talking. Just trying to share my creative energy with the world. Like, that's it. So, yeah. What was the hardest aspect about starting?
I didn't know any of the technical part of it. Like I was like totally lost. So I'm thankful that I knew Be Easy because like it was like I made a phone call. He put me on a 3-way call with CL, and it was like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. And like I'm not okay. I'm a creator. I have the voice, but like when it comes to my hands and like the techie part, that's not me. So like with my promos, I got somebody that I pay to do my promos. With my photo shoots, I got somebody that do my photo shoot. So like, and then I got Be Easy. He is my engineer, my producer. That's Joe. We did it. Like, so with that being said, like it was more of I'm thankful that I had people that believed in me because like they made it easy. It was like just show up. That's all I had to do. But when I was thinking about the whole process, I was like, well, it's not gonna sound right if I do it on my phone. And okay, so what if nobody don't listen to it? And like it was like all of that. Like I down talked the whole process for like months. Like I was supposed to start this like a year ago, and I just was so far in my head when all I had to do was make a phone call.
They'll say that you started exactly when you were supposed to start.
You're right.
Started exactly when you were supposed to start. Right. What's you, Kendra?
I think for me, the hardest part was I didn't really like. I had no clue, like really where to start. Like, and I had to. I learned mostly everything on my own, and the help that I did get, crazy enough, was from other men podcasters. It was like, oh, you're going to start? Here's what you're going to need. You're going to need this. You know what? Are you free? You can do a Zoom call. I'll help you out with this. I have another guy that's going to help. Well, he's going to Zoom call me at some later date, but I put on my story, like, I don't know how to edit from the computer. I edit from my phone. He's like, look, I can Zoom you and I'll walk you through. And it's been from men podcasters, that have reached out and have offered help to me that I've learned, what mic to use, and the things that I did learn were from them, and then a lot of stuff just literally came from myself. Like I had nobody really to like ask because I was a fresh podcaster. So I think just learning where to start, like even like how do I get my podcast on Spotify? Like, how do I get it to where people listen? Like, I didn't even know that. And I kept I would see people say, I'm finally on iHeartRadio. And I was like, what the hell you got to do to get on iHeartRadio? Little did I know the same thing you had to do for Spotify.
Yeah.
And everybody knows something different. So for
Right.
someone else, it may have been difficult to be on iHeartRadio, but for someone else, it may have been just a push of a button. So just
Right.
learning every little thing on my own, I think, was just getting it together was it was difficult.
I am with you on the difficult part. Like a phone and a mic. That's where I started from. Now
I
here.
started with just a phone.
Oh my. Oh girl. But yes. So I had the encouragement from the guys, of course, and then like they started me off. They told me the platform, so I started on Anchor, and I think they showed me something else. So then I did my research, right? So I was like, okay, what's the best mic to start off with? And I did, the ones with the best review, and I went from there. And then I was like, okay, well now I need to know how to make my sound quality better. I need to know how to promote. I need to know how to, do all this other stuff. So it's like a continuous research that has to go into it. And from there, um once some of our bros, they started their own podcast, once they started learning stuff, because some stuff I don't even know what it looks sometimes, but they were, kind enough to reach back and was like, hey, we just did this, did you know about this yet? And I'm like, no, I ain't know about this, let me check into this, blah blah blah. And so now that I've gotten better at like certain parts, I know where to look for certain stuff, and I know how to like keep evolving slowly but surely. So it's definitely a process, and it was difficult for me to feel comfortable doing it. Another thing that also helped was like I didn't know, like in my area there was a podcast, like a small, but it's a podcast community. So once I connected with those individuals, I was able to go into their spaces and see how they conduct business and see what kind of equipment they use and see how they operate, and I was able to apply that to my platform, in my own way as well. So just having direct and indirect mentorship. And also, like, I love the fact that even though it was difficult, like, I had some part of like doing it on my own, because I always want to learn just in case something does happen, like, and I'm somewhere where I can't be, where I want to be, and I have to record, I'm able to do it. So yeah, that was probably the hardest part about getting started, and probably one of the hardest parts about continuing, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
um what was the response when you let other people know that you were starting?
Everybody was supportive, like when I let them know, because it was like one of those things. I was like one of those people that like kept going viral on Facebook. Like I write 3 words and then like it'll get like 2,000 shares. I'd be like, when I write like a whole paragraph, I don't care. But anyway, like like so that kept happening. So like when I said I wanted a podcast, and like I said, my mommy group, they had been trying to talk me into it. They didn't even know that I was interested in it. I just didn't know how to say, like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to tell them, oh, I want to do it, I just don't know what to do. So I just kind of act like I didn't. Oh, you want me to do that? I never thought about it. Like I just act like that, but in reality, I was just lost. It was one of those things like, oh, finally. I got that a lot. Like a lot.
Yeah. What about you, Kendra?
I think for me, as far as like my family goes, I think they was just like, so why? Okay, you gonna get paid? Oh, okay. No one really cared. And at the same time, I wasn't going around saying, hey everyone, I'm starting a podcast. But when it was mentioned, those are the reactions that I got. So they don't really give a damn. But the support that I got from other podcasters on Instagram was insane. Like they were literally like, yes, finally, like you did it. Like, yes, And so that was encouraging within itself, to just like, you guys don't even know me and you supported me. So that was amazing.
Right. Sometimes I find your circle can be a little slow to the race, right? They the last ones to show up sometimes, but eventually, or sometimes they won't. Like you said, Keith, like sometimes people will never support you just because you're the messenger, or just because they feel like they already know you, or they already know what you're about, so they don't check out your material. And I learned from my blogging that I don't pay attention to the support, whether it's there or not, because I know if the content is good, the support will come. So I focus on that. As far as like the response goes, I had a lot more response from like, I had response from like the big people in my life, but as far as like, other people in my circle, it was just like, okay, girl. And then when I bring up a topic that they feel passionate about, that's when they'll tap into it. Or that's when, I'll get that support, or that's when I'll get that feedback that a lot of us really want, because we want to know that we're on the right track, right? And we want to know that from the people that we trust the most. But sometimes you just have to know inherently that you got it and keep going forward and not focus on like who is in the race with you.
And I think that's what works for me. I think I wasn't surprised. I think my whole life story is people trying to put me in a box and never understanding why I don't fit in that box. Like, you think like, no, it was like, you doing the podcast, that doesn't fit you, but you don't even know, all the layers to me. You think that doesn't fit me, but look, I just became a podcaster. Tomorrow I might go bungee jump. I don't know. It's who I am. So don't ever think you know me and you can fit me in this box or judge me by my looks or what you've heard on one podcast, and you got it, because it never works out.
Right. Because for most people, in my experience, I'm the shy girl, right? I'm the one that didn't talk much when they, knew me, or, we follow people on social media because this is where we promote our stuff, right? We follow people on social media that we knew when we were teenagers. So a lot of the time it's just like, y'all don't know me.
Right.
You know me when I was 25. You don't know me anymore. Like, I'm not 25.
Or you knew me when I was 10. Like,
yeah.
But it's very interesting because the response I got was, "Oh my God, you got a good voice. You sound good on the mic. You sound like you're supposed to be doing this." And it was shock, and I was just like, "Well, if you knew me, these are the same conversations I'm bringing to the mic. I've been having with my friends for years. Like, they not shocked because they already know, like, I have the capacity to talk at this level, to be quote unquote wise, or to be, encouraging. They know that this is my normal speech pattern. You, because, as an outsider, you're shocked because you don't really know me."
Right.
So that's something I've had to deal with as a response as well. Have y'all ever received any negative feedback so far?
The most negative feedback I've gotten was the fact that, you know what, I feel like you was getting into your bag and then the show was over. Like, I don't understand. Like,
that's
I get
a good
that
thing,
a lot. Like, as soon as I was getting into it, you stopped talking. I feel like you could have gave me more. And I'm like, well, I'm talking to myself. So that 15 minutes, I'm glad you got that. I have some 8-minute shows. I've came a long way.
But keep them wanting too. It's like, meet me next week. Shit.
Right.
Want some more of this?
I think the worst feedback I've gotten so far is that I was capping, quote unquote, I'm capping, because I said, what was it for? Oh, because I said, in the episode that I did on someone else's podcast, I said, if my boyfriend lends me money, I'm not obligated to pay him back. And I feel that way, right?
Because you ain't.
That's what, you're my boyfriend, right?
Period.
My boyfriend.
But somebody posted and was like, "Oh, she capping. She knows she got to pay it back." And I was like, "Okay."
How you?
So that's the worst feedback that I've. That's what I'm saying. Like,
are you expecting your little funky floaty bag?
Okay. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, I think that was the worst. It wasn't that bad.
Negative feedback. The most negative I got was my sound, and I'm just like, look, y'all gonna have to work with me.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, started from the bottom, and now we getting somewhere. I ain't gonna say we there yet,
right?
But we getting somewhere with it. But unless you want to invest some money into this equipment,
okay. You trying to sponsor this?
Okay, I need some sponsors. Okay. But no, that's the most, and I love that feedback because it lets me know whether I'm getting better or I'm getting worse. So I hadn't gotten that, any feedback. Going virtual is always a process, because you always have, platforms that either give you good audio. Sometimes they give you good audio, sometimes the audio isn't great. And then I just really started editing my own podcast, because I wasn't editing at all. I was just posting, y'all. I just started editing a couple of months ago. So like having that control to fix my levels and stuff like that. Um, I love getting the feedback that lets me know what I need to improve on, because it helps me just get better and better. But I know that the other kind of negative feedback, if I want to get to actually pushing this podcast and making it a big thing, I know that's coming to people who are just going to disagree with your views, disagree with your topic, not like you for whatever reason. You capping, you ain't nothing. This is what's wrong with Black women. This is stuff that could possibly happen in the future, and I'm mentally preparing myself for it, because I know where I want to take LBF, and I know what I'm willing to put up with and what I'm willing to do to get it to the place where I want it to be. So I just wanted to ask that question, because I'm just like, I know we're all, fairly young podcasters, but sometimes I do still see it. Like, you'll see people in their comments or something they're posting. It's just like, well, dang, did you have to do all that? Like, if you didn't agree with it, like, you didn't have to write a whole paragraph. But okay.
I delete comments.
Don't play
I
with
delete comments. I turn my comments off if you don't follow me. Like, yeah, that's probably why I don't have bad reviews, because I got away. If you don't follow me, you can't find me anyway.
You got a system.
That's why I said she done figured out a system around it, girl. Like, let me go and figure out some stuff on my page.
No, I feel you though. I haven't had any comments that yet on mine, but I will delete a comment too if I feel like you're just there for argument's sake and you got nothing better to do with yourself. I will delete that. I have no problem with people disagreeing with my feelings and my opinions. You're entitled to that. Everybody doesn't share my opinion, and you can share that without being disrespectful. Disrespectful or argumentative. If I feel the statement is in that one of those scenarios, I will delete that. I have no problem with that. This ain't the place.
So do you feel like y'all mentally and emotionally prepared for someone to attack something like what if somebody came out negatively and said something about one of the episodes that are like close to your heart? Like, are you mentally and emotionally prepared to deal with that?
I think I am, because I'm always prepared for the worst. I think that's just how I am in life, maybe.
You just said she come out here ready for war.
I'm prepared. Like I said, I know I have the unpopular opinion, so I'm always prepared. A lot of my episodes that I did my season pre-recorded is with other people.
Yeah.
But I'm prepared for people to not like or agree with what I say, because that's my life. If I have a conversation with two people outside, they're probably going to disagree with what it is that I say. So I'm prepared for that. And like I said, I'm here for it. You could come and say, you know what, I understand and I respect your perspective of this. However, this is how I feel. Okay, great.
Right.
Don't come here with no disrespect. That's all I'm saying.
Gotcha.
I'll be honest and say,
I saw your face when I asked.
My brain does not allow me to process. Like, you might think this is funny, or like I'm not telling the truth, but if you send me something and it's through text, in the first two lines, the tone don't sound right, my brain will not allow me to read the last part of it. Like, I read the first two sentences and the last two sentences, and then my brain is like, oh, this ain't good. You don't need to read this. And I can't, it doesn't matter how many times I try to read it, I'll screenshot it and send it to somebody else to process it, because my brain is like, it's like that energy. We're not gonna. So yeah, you could give it to me. I probably won't read it. And it's not because I don't want to, but I just can't. Like, I don't know.
On that note, for me, I would say that I think I'm a little more than halfway there. I had some good training over there on the relationship status podcast with CL and Yusuf, and I think that I know how to, have a difficult conversation with somebody who might not agree with me, and I do that all the time in my job. So it ain't nothing new for me over here. I know how to stand fast to my point and know how to meet people with, if they're coming to me with unreasonable opposition and they're getting in their feelings and their emotions about something I've said or a point of view I might have, it's more their problem than mine. I just ask that you be respectful. I can't accept a level of disrespect because again, that's your problem, not mine. But at some point, the K might drop off at Antoinette, and that's all you're gonna get. So I always know, especially because this is my baby. You know, the platform is something I built from my spirit, you know, and so it's something that's very near and dear. So I know that that might be something in the future that could be a little bit more challenging to deal with, especially because most of the what I'm hearing is most of the things that we've been getting has been positive. I just wanted to ask that because something I thought about the other day. What support do you currently need for your platform and for your podcast? Small, little, big. It could be like equipment wise. It can be
Oh well, if I actually do it myself, like I don't do nothing myself. But if I did it myself, I do need my own equipment. Um, and I need to learn how to do it. That'd be about
right.
it.
I mean, if you got a system that works for you, it's a system that works for you. You don't have to look like you don't have to be like me and Kendra or any of these other podcasters that feel like we have to do it on our own. I just know my personality is feeding it to me wanting control on some level because it's been hard for me to give up certain amounts of control. Me and you are both under Crux Media. It was hard for me to give up control over posting my own episodes. Girl, let me tell you. Okay. And it's fairly small control, but I had been doing it on my own for so long, right? So that was just another way for me to make sure things were what I wanted it to be and how I needed it to be. For you starting off, knowing how to work with other people is preparing you for a bigger platform because when you do get to that big level, right? Do get to that Joe Budden status. You're not gonna be posting your own episodes. You're not gonna be editing your own material. You're not gonna be doing your own promotions. So you already in the pocket preparing you for what's to come, and that's great. Me on the other hand, I want to always be prepared to help the next person as well, you know. So I love being able to tell the person, you know, all right, these are the attachments you might need. This is the platform you can start on. This is where I edit my photos. This is where I edit my, you know, my sound and all this stuff. So what about you, Kendra?
I think for me, the only support that I can say that'll like keep me running and going is just knowing that I have resonated with another woman out there, really.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as I get at least one woman here and there, like, I really appreciate when somebody goes out of their way to DM me. You know what I'm saying? Because you're on my podcast, listening, but to take your time out and go back to my Instagram and DM me and say, "Hey, I'm glad you said this." I think that's what feeds into me and just overall keeps me going. That is the most motivating ever. It's just to know
Yeah.
that I've touched another woman, I've encouraged another woman. Um, and that's something that I really have tried to do with my platform as well. If I'm sharing my stories that I don't hear any other woman really sharing because it's not, pretty. And it's motivated or helped another woman. I think that's all I really need.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's always the fuel to the fire is like once I know that I can connect with you, whether it be women or men, you know, something that I feel like needs to be talked about, I'm gonna keep going because it's so much like they call my material evergreen. I think we all have kind of that material where it's like we can talk about anything, you know, and we can have our own spin on it, have our own perspective. And that is how we know that we're going to be able to continue to do this. And when I know that that's touching somebody, that just motivates me to like keep calling out a lot of this stuff that people try to bury and not talk about because that's my MO. I'm just like, I'm gonna make us talk about this. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but that's what keeps me going is when I do talk about something really uncomfortable and I get someone that says, I'm glad you said this. I'm glad that you addressed this. That's the support that I needed when I first started in God. And that's the support that I will continue to need no matter how big this platform gets.
Mm.
Um, what have you learned about yourself as a result of starting your show?
On my last show, I found out that I am addicted to dysfunction, and
Sorry.
sometimes I crave toxic energy. I found that out literally. It happened at the studio. I was like, wait a minute. I deal with such and such because I like such and such because I like dysfunction.
I love those
And
revelations. I love those
yeah,
revelations, especially
you can
on
hear
mic.
it when it happens. You can hear it when it happens. I'll be like, you know what? Forget that. What I really mean is blah. And I'll be like, afterwards, I'm like, wow, I'm toxic. Well, I'm not toxic, but I kind of like toxic. But that's the Scorpio in me. It's the Scorpio. It really is.
Are we gonna blame the
Mhm.
zodiac?
Yeah, I blame that on everything.
Oh my goodness, Kendra.
I don't know. I think this is something I've already been aware of, but I sometimes that confirmation is that it's just hard to change my mind.
Mm.
It's hard to change my mind. So I'm never the one that's like, oh no, you're wrong. You shouldn't feel this way. Like I listen to everybody. But it's hard to get me to like I've never like had feelings about one thing and then had a conversation with someone on a podcast and then went out with a different aspect on things. That's never
You're
happened. So I
stubborn, is
think
what you're saying.
I guess you could say that. Yeah, I've been accused of that. So
You said it real nice. Look, Kendra, what you really saying? What's your zodiac sign, Kendra?
Virgo.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But that's, I mean, for me, I love that we self-reflect, whether it be on mic or after we have a conversation. So you know this about yourself. Like, so you go into the situation knowing, like, you know what, I'm gonna listen to you, but I already got my mind made up. It is what it is. That you take Kendra how you get her. That's a very honest place to start from. I think what I learned about myself the most, um, I'm a conversationalist. Like, and I didn't realize that when I first started. Because I've always been labeled the introvert, quiet type. And granted, um, I have a lot of these conversations with my family and friends, but not in the same way. Like I'd write something and then I share it with them, or I'd be in the process of writing something and, I'll ask questions. But seeing how I've evolved in my podcasting to call out stuff that was already inside of me, so to speak, let me know that um I had a big talent or skill that I didn't even know that was there, and that was through conversation. And then when I look back at my life, it had always been there. And so it's really great for me to have learned that about myself, because now I can consciously take that into other areas of my life. Um, how important is engagement to you, and what methods do you use to get audience engagement?
Oh my God. Engagement is very important to me. Um, if I'm not engaging with my audience, so here's the deal. So my podcast is me, right? And I'm gonna deliver what it is that I feel I want to say, period, right? But I always want to engage with my audience and see how they feel about the material, right? What am I doing that's keeping attention? What am I doing that is not getting attention? Um, what do I want my audience to overall feel about me? And I really want my audience to feel like we're all a community, like we all, you can talk to me just like you can talk to anybody. Like I don't want anybody to feel like, oh, I'm above them because I have a podcast, and I'll get to you when I get to you. Like I get back to everybody equally the same. And without that engagement, I kind of don't really know. Like I feel like without my engagement, I don't really know. Kind of feel like I'm just throwing stuff out there and not really knowing what's happening. So the engagement for me is everything.
I would say for me, mm, I enjoy engagement, but I don't actually like build my show from it. So it's like one of those things where I throw a show out there and if they like it, they like it. If they say something, they say something. If they don't say nothing, I'm still gonna throw another show out next week. Cause like a lot of the stuff I say, I feel like people like it, but they don't at the same time. because a lot of my messages are about accountability and actually accepting like what we're doing wrong. And a lot of women are not in a place to be accountable. So like, for example, I've had people reference my first episode and I'm on week 9. And I had somebody mention my first episode today. So everybody's not ready for what I have to say. So the engagement part is like, I enjoy when people say something to me, but then at the same time, I don't really like attention. So like, if too many people say something to me, it kind of, I'm an odd person. So
I mean, you are odd, but I'm there with you with it. You odd. I'm odd too. I say that because I understand, and I didn't want you to feel like you were alone in that experience, because I get it. I get exactly what you're saying. It's just like you want the engagement as far as like on the back end of what you were saying, at least. You want the engagement, but sometimes it can feel overwhelming because you're so used to playing in the shadows.
right.
And it's just like the way that you create is from a very personal place. And now you inviting people into that. And you don't want to be overwhelmed with everybody's presence because you're so connected to your own too. So I get
Right.
um engagement is important for me, but just like you said, like when I started first, because I wasn't looking at no stats, no nothing. When I did start looking at it, I realized that the episodes that were talking about the most uncomfortable things and, like you said, accountability, were the ones that were getting the least amount of plays because people weren't ready to actually face themselves in those conversations. And so those were the ones that were just like, okay, so people, they'll choose escapism first, right? So the episodes about sex, the episodes about dating, those will get the most plays, right? And then slowly but surely they'll come back and they'll start listening to those other episodes if they come back and listen to the episodes or whatever. But that's when I realized I have to have like some kind of middle ground with my engagement. Like I can't be butthurt that the episode that I felt like I poured everything out into didn't get as many listens as I felt like it should have gotten. And the episode that was fun, but that didn't have as deep of a message, got all the plays. Like I was just like, okay, well, at least I know what my audience is looking for. And as long as I keep promoting what my platform is actually about, I can have these fun episodes, but at the core of it, LBF is going to have the conversation.
Right.
That means we're going to have fun conversations. That means we're going to have uncomfortable conversations and hard conversations. Usually it's going to be more hard than fun, but I'll throw a fun one in there for some comedic relief, you know? So making sure that I'm tailoring my messages to the audience, but also not letting the audience define me. So that's how I usually choose to interpret my engagement, and making sure that I'm staying on top of myself to provide the material and to actually like talk to the builders so that I know what they need and what they want from the platform as well, and take that under consideration without totally changing what I know to be how I want my platform to be, if that makes sense.
Yes, yeah. And then you did say what form of what was the other part of the question? You asked like what tools do we use for engagement or something?
Yeah, like what methods do you use to get your audience engagement?
Yeah, so to hit back on that, I only use Instagram. That's everything.
No, you good, because I'm just like right now I could Instagram, Facebook.
I
Facebook
only
a little
use
dwindling.
yeah. I think I'm a beast on Instagram when I'm on there. My problem is I don't like social media, so sometimes I'd be like, I need a break from Instagram, and I'll just fall off the place of the planet.
That's my problem,
and then I'll come back. But that's all I use, and I actually think that's a great tool. I think if I had Facebook as well, that would be great as well. But I think Instagram is like the hottest thing right now, so I think that's the best tool to have for reach.
I don't know. It's just like, so I started off with just Instagram. Then I was like, well, you know what? Let me see. I tried Twitter. Then, Snapchat. Now it's to the point where once I post, I go from Instagram. I got to post it on my personal story, right? I don't post it on my page. Then I got to post it on the LBF page and the story. Then I got to go from there and post it on Twitter. Once I post it on Twitter, then I got to go to Facebook, because my engagement is really low on Facebook. But I'm just like, I'm here, y'all. If y'all want to follow me,
got to show up anyway.
I'm here. Because I know that it's a lot of where the core audience could be that connects to my material. I just have to get the content to them. So I'm still trying to find that method. So I go on Facebook, and then last but not least, little Snapchat, let people know, because it is a way where you can link your podcast and your, your information on your Snap. So people could just click right from your Snap. Y'all, this social media, like you said, like I was on social media, but it was like, I didn't really start posting more on social media until I started realizing that, one, I needed to put my face with my podcast. So I started posting more personal pictures of myself to promote Kantoinette, because she's an extension of, LBF. So whenever she goes on other shows, or when someone goes to her page, she is a representative of LBF. I say she is me, but y'all know what I'm talking about. And then I started realizing, okay, then you have to make your content look appealing too. So I had to get into my creative bag. And although I like the process, and the process is pretty fun, making the promo and the posters and everything to post, it's a girl. Like, it can be very time consuming, because you're just like, okay, yeah, because you posting it here, you got to create it, you got to get the pictures, now you got to get the audio, you want to put a little audio in there, and it's just like it becomes this whole tornado of stuff that you're trying to take care of, and it can be very overwhelming to try to make sure that you're choosing the right methods to engage with your audience. But because, like I said, I'm young, I have to try everything and see what's hitting, and then I can start dropping off certain platforms. Because Twitter, I got back on Twitter specifically for LBF, but now I'm using it more. Well, I was at one point using it more for personal, and then I stopped because I didn't want to see all that social media. I got burnt out with social media and fell off the face of the earth with Kendra. And now I'm trying to come back. I'm trying to come back and be like, hey, y'all, I'm still here. So it's an interesting process. What about you, Key? I know you said you had somebody specifically for your social media.
Yeah, I actually have somebody for my social media. The person that I have for my social media, he creates content for each platform. So I have certain things that I put in my story, like it's like it only looks right in my story. I have certain things that I put on my actual feed. I use Pinterest. A lot of people don't know to use Pinterest, but I get a lot of engagement, because when you change your Pinterest to a business account, you can see who's clicking the links. I put all my podcasts on Pinterest, and I get a lot of engagement on there. I use Twitter. See, with Twitter, I don't think people actually notice the fact that I tweet parts of my shows all the time, but I don't think they're catching that. Like it could be like, I might say like a sentence, or like maybe like one of my affirmations. And sometimes the parts of my shows that I tweet are not current shows. I'm still tweeting affirmations from episode number 3. But like I still make sure, but I won't lie, like if it get too much, you might not see a tweet from me for like, a week, and then Wednesday come and the person that's over my promotion is like, okay, so Key, you in one of those spaces, you need to post by 3:00. Like I have like alarms also, because like when you with Instagram, I actually
it's certain
check
times of days. And
yeah,
girl.
But the thing about it is, you also need to check your analytics and your numbers to see what times of days your followers are more active. Because just because Pinterest say post at 3:00, your followers might not. Right. Like, and it'll show you like the engagement that you have on your Instagram. But for me, my best feedback and engagement comes from Facebook and Snapchat. Because in between my car concerts, I made sure I put a promo.
That's how you do it.
Like, y'all gonna get this promo. Like, you gonna get it. In between the bottle of Henny, you gonna get the promo. Like, y'all think I'm playing with you, but go listen to my episode. I was in my bag. And it's been working for me.
Right.
It's been working for me.
I love that, because like I said, I started doing more research, because I was just like, all right, because when I first started, and for a long time I was good. I was like, the social media, I was killing it. Like you said, I was quoting my quotes all the time and doing all that. And then it was just like, all right, I'm getting a little tired. You get a little burnt out in other areas. We just had the burnout episode that I did a couple of weeks ago. And it was just like, okay, social media got to go. I can't be consuming all this information and my brain is already chaotic. So that's one of the first things I usually let go of. But when you're trying to build your platform, it's a necessity. And so trying to find that
Mm-hmm.
middle ground is always a little bit difficult. So what I try to realize is like, okay, you got to be smart about this. It's ways people do this. People have been doing this for a while now. You need to do more research. So in my research, I was just like, okay, you need to figure out what time your audience engages with your content. You need to make sure, because you are scatterbrained, that you are aware of what time of day it is so that you can post. And then for me, I'm going to start automating my posts, because if I got to leave it up to me to post it, that alarm can come and go as much as it wants to. But I might not actually be in a space to actually post it. You know, I might be in class, I might be working or something like that. So I have to make sure that I'm still engaged, even though I might want to take a little bit of a break from social media. And the way to do that is to, like you said, either get somebody who is good at social media to be a part of it and do it, for me, or to just, start automating my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see yourself doing this for 5 years or 10 years or more?
In 10 years, I'm gonna be on Patreon. Somebody's gonna pay to hear me in 10 years.
That's what I said. I ain't 10 years, two. They ain't
It's
might
gonna be
two.
5. It might not even be 5, but somebody's gonna want to hear me and pay for me and have a subscription within the next 5 to 10 years.
Mm. I'm gonna say yeah, because the thing, I don't want to say I don't take it serious, because as a Virgo, if you know anything about Virgos, we don't half-ass nothing. Everything, like I said, this is a hobby, but you see how much energy and time and effort I put into my stuff,
Right.
because that's just how I roll. But it's not it's not where my heart is, you know. So I'm gonna do it whenever I want to do it, and not do it when I don't want to do it. That's just how it's gonna be for me. Like
Right.
I said, if this takes off and it can fund my real passion, that's great. And if it doesn't, that's great too, because this is my, like, it's my diary. Like, I'm just talking, and I'm okay with that.
It's I think it's all of our diaries, if I'm being honest.
Right.
I think as much as we be sharing the episodes, like, girl, you be
Right.
transparent and I love it, but who I know I done been there, so I know it was hard, to say some of the stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, 5 years from now, I can still see myself doing it as long as I continue to grow. I do think that anything worth doing is worth building on. Let's build. um, so I have to make sure that I'm doing what I got to do to get this to where it needs to be. And if I'm not getting better, then that means that my heart is not fully in it, and I might not need to be
Mm-hmm.
doing it no more. So
Mm-hmm.
as long as I continue to see it grow, that means I'm in the right space, I'm on the right path, then I can continue to do this. If not, then I might need to look into using my creative energy for something else. But for right now, I actually do this a lot more than I blog now. And I might need to take the blogger off of K and Swinette, because I haven't blogged in a minute, if I'm being honest. Just because I do love it and I do connect deeply with the mic, if I'm being honest about that. So yeah.
Yeah.
Money got to be in it though. I ain't about to sit here and be
Mm-hmm.
like, I do this without no money though.
Mm-hmm.
I get this little freebie 2 years, and then after that, I'm gonna be digging in some pockets.
Okay.
So, what is the main message you want your audience to leave with after every episode?
I want my audience to be inspired to do anything. I don't know what they need to be inspired, like what they need motivation towards, but I hope they listen to my episode and know they can do it, whatever it is, within reason. I don't go out here killing people, but within good reason.
How you go from
No, because they
Messina
might
said
be
that was a hard
inspired to.
left?
I be doing it.
Whoa, Kendra.
I think one, I hope you walk away with a laugh and a smile on your face. And I hope you walk away feeling, I don't want to say like a friend in me, but I want you to feel like you've connected with me in some way,
Yeah.
whether it been something that I've said or I've been through, or I talked about somebody that was something similar to somebody in your life, and feel like, you know what, um, I wanted you to walk away like you have a friend, if that makes sense. I hope
Yeah.
I'm describing that right.
I mean, because you listen to those podcasts and you don't feel like, I've clicked on podcasts and it's just like I have no connection to like
Connection, yeah.
it doesn't feel it's it's like when you click on a podcast and you feel like you listening to your homegirl or your group of
Yeah.
talking.
Yeah.
Those are the best ones because I feel like, okay, I can just put this on whenever I'm in the house, if I'm in the car, because it feels familiar. I hate clicking on a podcast and it doesn't feel familiar. So I get what you're saying, where it's just like you want to make people feel like they're familiar with you, and then that way they come back. Because I got podcasts right now that get me up out of bed. I don't want to get out of bed unless I hear those voices, and it sounds crazy, but that's what I hope for LBF too. I'm just like so addicted to my content that y'all like. I need to hear her voice. The message that I want my audience to leave with is to have the conversation. I say that all the time because I feel like a lot of us run from the hard conversations, and it's so much growth when we talk about stuff. And I'm not saying that you have to have the conversation with everybody else. You don't have to have it with another person. You can have it with yourself. So whatever topic I'm discussing at that time, or whatever episode topic that we're focusing on for that week, once you finish listening to my episode, I want you to think about some of the things I said and see if it's truth in it, see what your truth is, and then possibly go have that conversation with somebody else and introduce that conversation to your friend group, and then you get them thinking, and then it just continues and continues and continues. And that's the way we build our best selves, is by having those hard conversations and uncomfortable moments, so that we can get to the growth that's underneath all that. um oh shit, I lost my place. In what ways do you plan to grow? I'm gonna skip that one because I feel like we done. What is a fear that you have surrounding your show and podcasting, and what hope do you have?
Okay, I'll go first. My fear first and is my boyfriend coming across it and thinking things about me, or like if I'm sharing something from when I was 25, thinking I'm still going to act like that. Like, that's a fear of the prejudgment. So currently I usually just block anybody that I'm dating. I block them
Key,
from
who that sound like?
and I don't speak about it. Now, if he ever asks me, do you have a podcast, I'll tell the truth, but I don't speak about it, so there's no reason for him to ask.
Y'all crazy.
That's my fear right now.
What's your hope for your show?
My hope is that my hope is that I can continue to be myself unfiltered and get paid for this. That's the hope, because I'm already doing it for free and I'm enjoying it. And if I can make a couple dollars off of it, that's the ultimate goal, right? When you're doing something for fun and getting paid for it.
Go ahead and expound on that.
No, this is so funny because I had tweeted about the fact that I was talking to this man and I was hoping he never found my social media, but he found it. And that's why that's so funny to me. Oh my goodness.
I saw, I was like, oh, okay, she feel me on this.
I had felt that because I meant to block him off of my Twitter, but he heard my Twitter name on my show because he listened to my show and he found my Twitter.
Oh,
that was that took me to that place. But the one thing I was afraid of, and I'm still afraid of, like when an artist come out and they drop their first EP or their first album, and then like everybody like it, and then like they come back out with a second album, you be like, this ain't hitting like the first one. I was like, and I'm still kind of afraid that my content, like I give amazing content right now, but what if at one moment later I'm not relatable anymore, and it don't rock like my first EP? Like that's like my biggest fear. The one thing I hope for is that I can actually do this full time and I don't have to work no more. Like I would love to make this into a career. So yeah.
So I'm gonna give you some encouraging words and stop me if I'm like going in too far. You will always be relatable, right? So looking at the content that you currently have, like I said, we have what they call evergreen material, right? But also
Mm-hmm.
you're not talking about who dating who in celebrity culture, right? None of us are. We're
Mm-hmm.
not that kind of podcast. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but we are talking about the things that people deal with in life.
Mm-hmm.
That be exes, dating, love, trauma, whatever. You know what I'm saying? As long as you stay true to that part, which I can see you doing, even when you get into different areas of your life, the fact that you are coming from an honest place of your own experiences, somebody else is going to connect with that.
Yeah.
And you put it, like you said, as creatives and as poets and as writers, we can put that in a way that people want to drink that information. If that
Mm-hmm.
makes
It's
you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
timeless.
always be relatable because you're being
Thank
honest in
you.
your experience. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? Because it's something I had to think about too. I'm like, when I was going through my burnout, y'all, I felt like I was crazy because I felt like I couldn't create. And it was just like, girl, you burnt out. Talk about that. You know what I'm saying? Talk about that. Like you've always been true to whatever experience you got going on. You don't have to try to choose a topic. Let the topic choose you. Right now it's
Right.
choosing you.
Right.
Talk about that. If you can't
Mm-hmm.
talk about nothing else, talk about your experience. And because we are people who do that, we're gonna always be relatable. Because we're gonna always
Thank
have
you.
experiences.
It's like old school music, right? Anita Baker always gonna sound good.
Timeless
Always.
girl.
You know, okay. Always.
Always. So yeah, just I wanted to say that because sometimes we have to speak life into each other because I know I deal with some of the same fears on my own too. Like, did I share mine?
Mm-mm.
I
No.
didn't. I'm sorry. Okay. Fear. Fear for LBF. One of my fears is not getting it to grow the way I want it to grow because I will stop doing this. um, I won't stop doing it. I don't foresee myself completely stopping because it is a form of therapy for me. But I do know the potential that it has, and I do know the messages that are in the episodes that people need to hear. And I don't want, however, people perceive me outside of the truth of who I am to block the content and to block the platform, which I think happens sometimes. Like people make an assumption about who
Mm-hmm.
you are. And so they don't even want to, like we said before, they don't even want to tap into what you got going on. So
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure that my fear is it not becoming what I know it could be. And that's something I fight with, and that's why I go so hard, and that's also why I exhaust myself and why sometimes I get burnt out too, because it's just like you go so hard, you go so hard, you go so hard, you have to give yourself some kind of grace as well.
Mm-hmm.
So the hope I do have is that I know it's dope, like so I know like that it's gonna go somewhere and that I'll always have this stuff. Like my grandkids can listen to these episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Like and that's something that I'll be able to share with the people that I love the most and that other people like we might can be 80 years old and our episodes ain't never pop. Our platform ain't never pop. And then the younger generation of somebody will start listening
Get a
and
hold
Mm-hmm.
to it, huh?
listen, I'm telling you, like this is a hope, this is a possibility. And so I have hope for the possibilities of what this could be. So last question. What's your favorite show that you've done? And if you could have anyone on your show, who would you have on?
My favorite show I did was Letter to Myself.
Mm.
That's my favorite one. If I could have anybody on my show, this is hard. I want to say it's gonna be Joe Budden because right now I was about to say Black, but it's gonna be Joe Budden if I could have anybody on my show. Yeah,
I would have
I
guessed
wanted
that.
Black for other reasons. Black was for other reasons
For
because I
other,
just need him to. I need him to know who I am
Emotional support.
because
the
I'm his
intensity in your
wife
face right
and
now.
he just doesn't know it yet. I am his wife. He just has not found me yet.
You hear that, Black? Hit her up, MyCurlsSpeak with Key.
For me, I have to be honest. I love a lot of my episodes. I've had great episodes, but I will have to say my favorite episode has yet to be recorded. You know, and I just have to be honest. It's just it ain't out there yet. It's in here. It ain't out there. But who would I like to have on my show? You know what? I'm weird because I don't want to, like, I'm not going to say, like, if Snoop Dogg wanted to be on my pod, I'd be like, oh, no, of course I'm going to let Snoop on my pod, right? But, like, I don't care to have a celebrity on my podcast. I like to talk to regular people, and I like to, I want to broadcast regular people. That's, like, I want to, like I said, I want to be like the girl next door, you know? So I don't have, like, one person that I just would want to get on my podcast. I don't even see my podcast like that. Like, oh, I bagged the celebrity. Like, I could care less. So I don't know, just great people with great energy. I want to keep those type of people on my show.
I gotta agree with you that, because when I wrote it, I was just like, you know, I ask a lot of hard questions on my guests, and it'd be questions I can't answer on my own. Like, it's like I'm really good at writing these questions. You are sucky at answering. But I'm the same way, because when I thought about it, I was like, it's nobody in particular. I want to talk to everybody. Celebrity, normal person, like, it's gonna be the same format. You still gonna get this outline. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm still gonna be very interested. And that's why I tell people, I'm like, it's really just a conversation when you come on mic with me, because I'm very curious about you, the person, and about what you got going on. Like, I'm really genuinely curious, and I hope that comes through, that I'm interested in what the other person has going on. And so for me, that's what makes the conversation that much better than just getting up here and just talking about something. So I could have anybody up here. I don't really matter to me.
I was gonna say, you just like me, but stuff. I just like to say I'm nosy. You know, I like to, you know, I just say I'm nosy. I like to know everything I can know about you.
I nosy,
everything.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what curious is, right? I mean, because that's what I get called. But I just be like, I'm curious. But you know what? I just own the nosiness. It's okay. I'm all right with it.
Kendra, I feel like you calling me out low key, but you know, what they say, what I learned about myself through podcasting. Apparently, I'm nosy. Goddamn. I always thought I was just curious, but you know, you learn something every day. What was the other one? What was my favorite show I've done? One of my favorite shows, of course, is my first one, which is Death to the Good Girl. I think that's a fan favorite, but it was mine because it was personal, and it was me saying that I was stepping outside of my box of what other people thought I should be, and just stepping into who I am. And so I think that's a message. And I love that the fact that men and women came up to me and they were just like, I felt what you were saying, and I'm tired of pretending to be somebody I'm not. So I love that about it. My second favorite was Black Men Self-Care. The audio is trash on it, but I love the conversation. It was just the chemistry, because it was one of my older cousins, but we hadn't talked in years. The chemistry was just so good, and the topic was just so necessary. So I encourage y'all, if y'all can sit through some of the little bumps in that audio.
I don't be tripping off audio. Like I don't. I'm listening to what you got to say.
Yeah, I was one, like, I ain't gonna lie, like, I was an audio girl, like, when I was just like listening to podcasts, because I was listening to podcasts before I started. And if the audio wasn't good, I was just like, it's hard for me to listen, you know. So I can't fault nobody for not going back. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, that episode did pretty well. But that's one of my other favorites as well. All right. Any questions for me? I know we've been talking. I know y'all jaws probably sore. Y'all need some water, I'm pretty sure. But I'm gonna go ahead and get y'all plug y'all information, and I'm gonna go ahead and get y'all out of here, because I know it's getting late for some of us. Go ahead.
Well, I don't have any questions for you. I appreciate you bringing me on as a new podcaster. I appreciate being able to be a part of this conversation, and specifically about women podcasters. And you guys can find me on Instagram only, pretty much, at Coffee with Kendra. Everything spelled correctly. No, nothing crazy, just Coffee with Kendra. I'm on all major platforms, including YouTube. I do a visual on YouTube for those people who don't like to listen, like myself sometimes. I love a visual. I'm out there. And then that's it. If you would like to have me on your podcast, DM me on Instagram at Coffee with Kendra.
That's it. Y'all hear that vibrant energy? Y'all have her on. She is such a treat. I've been adjacent to Kendra a couple of episodes on different podcasts and different stuff. So great energy, y'all. And
Thank you.
please tap into her platform because I think I was listening to you today. And I don't want to get off, but I was listening to you today and you almost made me wreck my car because I was in like, yeah, girl. Because you were talking about, asking the question, do you feel like we share too much? Like once we're in a relationship, we overshare with our friends and family. And it's something that a conversation I've had before, but I love the way that you presented it. I was like, what, she be on it. You better ask that question. And I listened to the responses. I was just like, some of them didn't get her point. She went back to it so she can make her point again.
Thank you.
Yes, please listen. Great material, great guests too. And tap in. Go ahead, Key.
Well, thank you for having me on the show again. If you want to find me, you can find me on Instagram at MCS with Key. That's my podcast Instagram. If you want to find my actual page, it's The Diary of Key. My name is The Diary of Key on Snapchat, on TikTok, on Twitter, on Clubhouse. On Clubhouse is 2 Ys. Okay. And yeah. And if you want to be on the show, you can email me at MyCurlsSpeak@gmail.com. Yeah.
Another great podcast, y'all. Very encouraging. If y'all need a pick me up, especially in the morning, like sometimes you just need that word in the morning. You know how you you put on that little short church sermon to get right with yourself. It makes me it reminds me of that. You just need it. And I told you it was a space for you to have short episodes. Like, and it's such a delight to be able to put it on and get what I need. And I'm good to go. Like by the time I make it to my destination, I'm like, okay, she done wrapped it up. She done told me, she done gave me a message and I'm good. Like, I love that. And so I want y'all to, builders, please tap into her platform, get with her, MyCurlsSpeak with Key, and just look at all the great stuff she has going on because she is going to be growing from here.
Thank you.
So tap in now. Don't be trying to be a fan later.
Right.
Hey, y'all know it's me, your host, Kantoinette, and you can follow me at Kantoinette_the blogger on Instagram. You can also follow the Let's Build Futures page at Let's_build_futures. You can also visit letsbuildfutures.com. I'll always have a blog post there. I'll be posting by the end of this month, I promise. And you can also email me if you have any questions, comments, any topic ideas at allthingslbf@gmail.com. Make sure that you follow LBF Podcast, subscribe, like, share, and have this conversation with a friend. Until next time, bye.
Let's build.